welcome to the Purity After Promiscuity podcast, where I am your host, Jenna Renee. And here we are once again. We're in the building. It's not our usual day. It's actually March the 25th today, which is Monday. We normally come together on Friday. I'm gonna be honest, y'all. It was just rough. It was rough, and I made a decision last week that I wasn't even gonna do the podcast, but we're here. We're here. And so I pray that today's episode really bless you. I hope it speaks to you. I hope it encourages you in the name of Jesus. And so I'm excited for what I have to say today, y'all. And we're about to go ahead and get started. We're going to release the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So again, welcome to the Purity After Promiscuity podcast, where we're redefining a woman's worth. I am your host, Jenna Renee, and today's episode is called Release It. And we are in season 6. In season 6, this whole season is all about set the captives free. And so every time I come to the podcast, or every time I have a guest, the goal, the intent, right, the purpose of every episode for this season is to give some wisdom, some revelation, some tools, right? Even testimony on how to get free. And so today's episode again is called Release It. And it's just something that I really had a real-time experience as per usual, right? If anybody's been rocking with the podcast for any length of time, a lot of the times the Lord speaks to me and it's an experiential revelation, or experiential prophetic word or a word of knowledge, right? Because a lot of times I'm coming from an experience or something the Lord revealed to me via scripture or whatnot. And so that's just kind of one of the ways that the Lord speaks to me. And if you know anything about your Bible, you know that God, there were some, and it's not, for me, what I'm about to say is not to try to say that I'm a prophet, but what I am saying, that you can go back to the word, because everything you hear, everything someone speaks to you, especially if they are saying it's of God, or they believe they heard from God or whatever, you want to be able to test it by the word. And so when you look at the word of God, you can see people like the prophet Hosea and the prophet Isaiah, right? They were prophets that God did speak to, right, to give words, but they also had to have real life experiences to be the prophetic word, right? They were the prophetic example to the people. A lot of times, like Hosea, he had to marry Gomer, right? He had to marry a woman who was a prostitute, and she continued to leave him and cheat on him, and he had to continue to take her back. And again, that was to give a vision, a revelation to Israel, because they continued to seek after other gods. They continued to commit spiritual adultery. So again, he became the sign. Again, with Isaiah's wife died, and the Lord told him that his wife was going to die, and he was not allowed to mourn for her or to grieve for her, which was something that was not common, especially in that time. It's not common now. If a loved one died, if a family member died, passed away, whatever, you mourn, you grieve, you have the time to be present in your pain and your emotions, right? Well, back then it was the same thing, and they oftentimes would put on sackcloth and ashes, and they would tear their clothes, and that was a public display that they were in a time of mourning, right? And so God told Isaiah that he could not mourn his wife, and that he had to go and give a word to Israel, and he had to use his particular circumstances of having the death of his wife and not having the ability to even grieve her, to be a sign, to give the word of judgment to Israel, that they were going to experience all kinds of things that were going to be uncomfortable, or things that were going to create some type of death of the fellowship that they have with God, and they were going to come under some judgment, but they were not even going to have the opportunity to grieve, because it was going to come very quickly. Like, his wife died very quickly. And so it is biblical for God to give us an experience. That's why we have testimony, right? But then sometimes when God is doing something, there's a person that he makes a sign, or there's a people, right? Or there is a region, or there's a circumstance that he uses as the sign to what he's saying. So oftentimes for me, it's what I'm what I've gone through, or something, that he revealed to me. And so before we get into it, though, I want to welcome all of my loyal listeners. I just appreciate y'all so much. I just thank each and every one of you. It is a joy, it's an honor to be a voice that you give an ear to. You got to be mindful, be careful of who you give an ear to. You can't let every voice, minister to you, speak into your life. You really want to be prayerful. You want to seek the Lord about every voice. It doesn't matter if it's a podcast, if it's a video, if it's social media, a live, whatever. Don't just give your ear over to just any voice, because there are some seducing spirits out there. So the fact that prayerfully you guys prayed about me and you asked the Lord about me and you tested my spirit, if you haven't, please do so. I would admonish you to get in the habit and the practice of that, because just because people get on a platform or they sound spiritual, or they can quote scripture, or they can give revelation, or they can even give an accurate prophetic word, still doesn't mean God is with them, or that they are even coming out of the Spirit of God. So make it a habit to pray and ask the Lord to lead you to, or to confirm if that voice is, if that's one you should be listening to. Amen. And so for those who have done that, and the Lord has allowed you to rock with me from whether it's the first season, second season, or whatever season, or if this is your first season, I welcome you. I thank you. I honor you. Oh, y'all, I am so sorry. This noise in the background. Hopefully it's not too distracting, but nevertheless, I just thank you guys for rocking with me and just supporting the podcast. You can continue to support the podcast by liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing, right? Giving the podcast more visibility is the goal for this season as well. Really getting in front of more people, really allowing the message that the Lord is ministering and speaking through this particular podcast to get in front of the people that it needs to reach. And so one way you guys can partner with me to do that is simply by sharing, by liking, by leaving a review, by subscribing if you're listening on a particular platform that allows you to do that. I would certainly appreciate it. Also, to all of my new listeners, if this is your first time, just welcome to this community. We are a community of believers, of women of God. Sometimes the brothers, they are on here as well, but just people of God who are seeking and searching to live out our true worth, to figure out what is the thing that God put us on this earth to do. How do we do it, and how do we do it well, right? And to dismantle some of these false labels and some of these mindsets, or some of these, belief systems that we have about ourselves based on our experience, based on our history, based on our past, because God created us, and he created us with an identity in him. And the things that we've gone through, or even like our family, culture, or our family, social economical state or financial state, or you came from a family where you may have had a difficult upbringing or childhood, or you may have experienced some trauma. Those things don't define you, though, right? You are who God says you are. And so this platform is all about walking in our true worth and understanding that despite all the circumstances, despite everything we've gone through, you are worthy. Amen. So I pray that you just come into the room, that you feel safe, you feel comfortable. This is a safe space, even when we are live, and you can comment and you can interact and you can ask questions. Like, don't be afraid. This is a judgment-free zone. We all, are walking out our own salvation with fear and trembling. Like, we are all, just here being perfected daily, right? Being sanctified. None of us have arrived. None of us is Jesus, right? Maybe our stories are different, but we all had to be saved by grace through faith. And so I just want everybody to know that this is a place where it's all about love and unity and healing and growth and helping one another, and seeing not just ourselves walk in the fullness of the blessing that God has for us, but even our sisters in Christ, our brothers in Christ. We want to see the entire body healthy. We want to see the entire body whole. We want to see the entire body blessed. Amen. So now that I got that out the way, I want to get into it. And again, it's just very simple. Today's episode, release it. And so why do I say that? So I think it really started a few weeks ago, if I'm very honest, because when you are walking this walk, like a lot of you may already know, that there come a time where you're in a place where you're like, God, I've done everything I can do. I'm serving you. I'm seeking you. I'm living right. I'm living in holiness. I'm living pure. I'm forgiving people. I'm, doing inner healing. I'm gotten through some deliverance, like you can kind of just go down the list, right? You're like, I love on people. I give, I sow, you kind of know like the spiritual foundations, right, that we know that we are to live by. You can say to yourself, not that again that you're perfect, but you can say like, I'm intentional to live my life according to your word, God. But for some reason things still ain't moving, right? I'm still not seeing no change, no traction. I'm still not seeing the prayers that I've been petitioning for years and or for months or whatever, over just a long period of time like that. I have not seen a breakthrough, God, and I don't understand. And so that's where I've been, and again, it ain't to try to make it seem like I have, arrived, or I'm living some type of life of, like I'm Jesus. Like that's nowhere near the case. But what I am saying is, there are things that I know that I'm doing and things that I know I'm not doing. And it's like, the things that I should be doing to where I should be able to see some breakthrough, it seemed like it's just like it's just been very stubborn. And so I've been begin to ask the Lord. And then also I have been having, interesting dreams. And because I'm a dreamer, that's another thing, I'm kind of, trying to discern these dreams and like, what is the cause and who's giving me these dreams? Is it the Lord? Is it the enemy? Are they just from my soul? Because again, when we're asleep, our spirit never sleeps. And that's why we are in a dream state. But our spirit is very much active in doing or seeing or observing or experiencing the very things that we are seeing in our quote unquote dream. But our shell is asleep, but our spirit and our soul is not. So oftentimes we can have things in our soul, in our subconscious, that we may not be aware of while we're awake. But then once we sleep and everything is at rest, then those things begin to come alive. And then we might see certain things in our dreams, just like you can maybe watch a certain show and then in your dream you kind of like are seeing some of that show play out, like, or you can be thinking about a certain thing before you go to sleep, and in some way that thing is kind of like manifesting in your dreams. So sometimes there are times where our dreams don't necessarily have meaning, in a sense they're not from God, but they're just a manifestation of something we've experienced, right? Something that has filtered through, or maybe even got stuck somewhere in our soul. If we're worried about it, if we're concerned about it, if we're mad about it, right? If we're sad about it, like, our emotions, are being triggered. And so we can see that in our dreams. But then there are times where God gives us dreams and God is speaking to us and he's trying to give us a message, whether he's trying to give us a warning, or maybe he's trying to give us an answer, or maybe he's trying to give us direction or understanding, or, whatever the case may be. He'll speak to us through dreams, and we might see symbols and signs and, different things that we then have to sit with God and get in the word. And yes, you can use resources like books on dream interpretation, and you should utilize more than one thing, because every sign or every symbol doesn't always mean one thing. So you want to get with God first and foremost to discern, so he can reveal to you what that thing means for you, right? And so God will and can speak to us through dreams. But then there are times where, for whatever reason, the enemy has some kind of access to our soul, right? Because he can't do anything with our spirit. He can't do anything with our spirit. But what he can do is he can try to influence or bring suggestions or temptations through our soul. And because he probably has an awareness that when we're asleep, things that are in our soul will oftentimes manifest into our dreams. And when we don't know how to discern the difference, oftentimes we'll assume every dream is of God, or we'll, on the flip side, assume every dream is of the devil. And neither one is the case, right? Like, every dream ain't from God, every dream ain't from the devil. Now, if you're having more dreams from the devil than from God, then that's letting you know that somewhere the enemy has gained some kind of access, some kind of open door to your soul. Maybe there has been an altar erected in your soul. And because altars are like connections or connector points, right? For the spirit realm to gain access into the natural, because the spirit realm cannot just come into the natural. They have to come by a particular means, and an altar is one of those means. Even the Lord will come and he'll intervene through an altar. You see in the Bible where Abraham, he erected an altar. He played, you see where Joshua, he created an altar. You will see, many times there was some altar even in the tabernacle, in the temple. There was the altar of the Lord where they sprinkled the blood and did all the rituals and ceremonial sacrifices and things of that nature. So an altar is just a connecting point that is giving some spirit access or communication to a human, right? And so what happens though is that altars are not always just physical. This is why you might hear people say you need to erect an altar of prayer, right? That doesn't mean you need to go get some sticks and some stones and some wood and create an altar of prayer. That means you need to develop a prayer life. But your prayers, to us, we don't see them. They're like invisible. But when you consistently pray, you pray every day. Like maybe the Lord has told you every day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon you need to go into prayer. Maybe he tells you every day at 5 o'clock in the morning, every day at 12 midnight. Maybe he just put a burden in you to pray every day about a particular thing. That is now you are erecting a altar of prayer. This is why it's so important, because an altar of prayer is very powerful. And when we have an altar of prayer, it's oftentimes more difficult for the enemy to come in and penetrate. And this is why he works relentlessly to get us in prayerlessness. He works relentlessly to get us in disappointment where we think our prayers don't work, so that causes us to stop praying, because he knows. See, the thing about it is they know, like the kingdom of darkness, they recognize that your prayers are working. Now, they may not be working as fast as you desire, and you may not see what you want to see in the moment, but they understand one thing: it's doing damage in their kingdom. So what they'll do is try to get us focused on being impatient. This is why one of the fruit of the spirit is patience, because every patient has to have its perfect work, right? Everything becomes beautiful in their time, at the appointed time. Certain things just not gonna happen to the appointed time. Yeah, it's not that your prayers are not working. Sometimes it's just that maybe what you're praying for, maybe the enemy has erected some type of altar somewhere in your bloodline or somewhere in your soul that has been there for a long time. So more times than not, if you pray 1 or 2 times, it's not going to tear that altar down. So you got to consistently pray over time to dismantle whatever the enemy has erected, because the enemy ain't erected nothing that he just did today. The enemy starts his work generations, years, decades, weeks, months in advance. He's not reactive, more or less. He's proactive. So he's always sowing seeds to produce some kind of fruit in our lives, to give access for him to come in and erect an altar, because the kingdom of darkness understand the power of an altar. And so what happened is, you might have an altar set up in yourself. Like, for example, I'll say for me, I probably erected a altar of perversion, because here's the thing: every spirit that comes through whatever the altar is the spirit of that altar, right? So if you constantly sinning, like for myself, constantly I was watching pornography, I was constantly masturbating, I was indulging in fornication, I was indulging in adultery, I was indulging in oral sex, and same sex relationships. I was indulging in all of these things that fall under the umbrella of sexual immorality, right? Or promiscuity, or fornication, or perversion or lust, right? And so what happens is annoying to me, because again, I didn't even know nothing about altars and curses and evil altars and things like that. This is pretty new revelation knowledge, but they always existed, and the enemy loves to play on our ignorance. And so what happens is, because I became to have a stronghold, or what we might say an addiction to pornography and masturbation, because I was doing it over and over and over time. So I began to not only erect an altar of perversion or lust or sexual morality or whatever, I also began to come over into a transgression, because we already have a sin nature, because the Bible says we're born in sin now that the fall happened. So we already have a sin nature. But then what the transgression is, the transgression is now the sin nature is turned into a particular sin, and now we're habitually doing this sin, and now it becomes a transgression. So because I was habitually masturbating and I was habitually watching pornography, I began to transgress. And so when you start moving into from sin into habitual sin, which becomes transgressions, now you're creating an altar, and you're also given a legal right for a curse that's attached to this altar and this spirit to come in and to be activated. Or maybe the curse is already over your bloodline, because maybe you realize that everybody or the majority of people in your family are dealing with some level of fornication or some level of perversion. So then that means that like I said, the enemy was working generations ago, and he was already sowing the seeds, of this particular type of sin that was in your bloodline. So now there's an altar in your bloodline, and now the enemy has tempted us to now create an altar in our soul. And so now you erect this altar in your soul. This is why you can get deliverance from the spirit of perversion, right? You can get deliverance from the spirit of lust. You can get deliverance from the spirit of fornication and sexual morality and stuff like that, right? However, the spirit sometimes comes back because the altar has not been dismantled. Because the spirit is coming through the altar. So the legal right lies in the altar. So the altar that not only was erected in your bloodline, but the altar that was erected in your soul, both have to be destroyed. And because a lot of us don't know these spiritual truths and have the spiritual revelation and understanding, we just end up don't know why we can't stop this certain thing, or we don't know why we can't seem to overcome. And you'd be like, I prayed and I fasted and I've gotten deliverance, and now the enemy is calling you to believe that it doesn't work, that God isn't real, or deliverance isn't real, or that you never gonna get free. And it's not that. It's because you really just attacked the fruit, which is the spirit that has the access to come through this altar. But the altar itself is the point of access. The altar itself is really like it's the nucleus, right? You got to kill that. And so I've been noticing, like, I'm still having these dreams, like I'm still like having things come and attack me at night, but I know I'm living holy. I ain't watched porn in years. I ain't fornicated in years. I live a lifestyle of abstinence. I do not watch certain things that's very sexual, or anything that I know can trigger me or tempt me. I'm very careful to like have a boundary or guard up. But for whatever reason, this thing continues to come and attack me every so often. And I'm like, what is going on? And so it also could be environmental, right? So you could be in a place that, especially if you are living with family, or you have children, or or you are around or living with other people, and they also, maybe they didn't get deliverance, or maybe they're still active in the partaking in that sin. That spirit still has jurisdiction and legal right to be in the atmosphere. And again, if you have any type of open door or access point, or if there's still an altar in your soul, maybe you dealt with the altar in your bloodline, or maybe you dealt with the altar in your soul and not in your bloodline. There is just like it's like you have to make sure that you destroy every way the enemy can come in. But I begin to seek the Lord. Like, I don't understand why this is still happening. Like, what is it? And so through all that, like, this revelation that I'm saying now, I just, received that just not too long ago, and there's some other revelations that came up. But then there's a particular thing that came to my mind in me seeking the Lord. Now, we have to understand, we do not glorify, and we are not obsessed, right, with the kingdom of darkness. But the Bible is very clear to tell us that we are not to be ignorant of the enemy's Satan's devices. So what does that mean? That means don't lack the knowledge of the enemy's devices or Satan's devices, right? So one of the things that I've come to realize is that the enemy is so crafty, that he will go to any length to do what to try to accomplish whatever he's trying to accomplish. However he's trying to destroy, however he's trying to kill, however he's trying to steal, he'll go to any length. So as I'm seeking God on how the enemy keep coming in, something came to my mind, and I just heard it very subtly in my spirit, like, you're gonna have to get rid of your puppy. Now, anybody who knows me and knows my children and I, like, we love our puppy. Like, our puppy is like a high maintenance dog at this point. Like, he's spoiled. Like, we love him. We take great care of him. We feed him only certain food. We only allow him to, do certain things. He has a lot of, he gets a lot of love. He has a certain type of diet. We don't just use any type of products on him. We use pet wipes and wipe his paws when he come back in the house. Like, because he's, number one, he's a house dog. So we definitely are very mindful of like his hygiene and different things like that. But we make sure he go get groomed, he goes to the vet. Like, we just are very intentional to do our best to care for him, because he's like one of our family. We got him at 9 weeks. And so when I first heard that, it was just kind of like, nah, that can't be God, because that don't even make sense. Like, what do my puppy got to do with anything, right? So I sat with it though for a minute, because I didn't want to really totally dismiss it if it was God. So I sat with it, and I kind of started thinking about it. And, I kind of started thinking about some of, my puppy's mannerisms and little things like that. And so then I even started looking up, ways to, in a safe way, surrender your dog, right? So I started doing a little research, started reaching out, blah, blah, blah. And then, I even reached out to somebody I know who already displayed interest in purchasing my dog before. So I was like, hey, I'm thinking I'm going to get rid of our dog. And they were like, why? And I'm telling them, I didn't go into real detail, but I just gave them enough to where they would be like, understand. And so they were like, okay, for how much, and this and this and that. And all of this, I'm so emotional. Like, I'm crying, like, because the thought of giving him up, because he is, like I say, he's like one of our family. We love him, like, not just for us, but even like my parents and my siblings and my nieces and my nephews. We're all like attached. We all have a love and have a bond with him. So it's just like the thought of it just had me so emotional. I'm like, God, this can't be you. So the person that I was talking to about selling him, they're like, no, you can't sell him. He's not going to do good. I tried that before one of my dogs, because she had a dog that passed away like last year. But before that, I guess at one point she tried to get rid of her, and her dog, had a hard time with the new owner, wouldn't eat, always was crying. And that's not unusual, right? Even if you go adopt a dog, or if you go buy a dog from, like a pet store or something like that, anytime you are transitioning or changing what they're familiar with or what they're used to, they're going to go through a transitional phase where they won't eat, and they will cry, and they may act out. Maybe they will use the bathroom. Maybe they will mope and not, be engaging with their, until they begin to see and recognize that this is their new familiar, right? This is their new normal. And so that's not uncommon. And so when she said that, it just pulled on my heartstrings even more. And it was just like, and she like, no, you just can't do it. Everything gonna be fine. Da, 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 da. So I just was like, okay. And I just settled on we keeping them. And that was that. So that was a couple weeks ago. And so in the meantime, I'm still trusting God, believing God, praying, seeking God for these immediate needs that we need. We have some time constraints on some things, and we really I thought by now, surely, I would have, seen God move on our behalf, and to still not see it and not understand, like, why, like, what is going on. And in the meantime, I'm still kind of having these strange dreams, and some of them I just already know as soon as I wake up, like, that was a dream, that was the enemy, and I'm having to rebuke the dream and come out of agreement with it and all of those things. And then, I'm, every now and again, I'm having a attack where that spirit of perversion is coming in and physically like molesting me. And so I'm just like, I'm totally like at a loss. Like, Lord, this don't make no sense. I don't even understand how this is even able to happen. What is the open door? What is the legal right? And so a lot of times when we pray, the reason why we may not get answers is because we probably do not ask specific things or ask for specific things. God, he's an intentional God. So when you really are needing something from God, whether it's an answer or wisdom, like, you ask for the specific what you need. And so I ask those specific questions. And so I'm back to square one. I'm asking again, like, Lord, I don't understand, how is this spirit able to come in? And so again, it came to my spirit like my puppy. So now I'm thinking like, okay, Lord, this is interesting. And so now it's like I'm sitting back and I'm like, let me kind of like sit with this for real. Because the first time I sat with it, but I was so emotional and it was just so like, I just didn't want it to be God, that I didn't truly allow myself to really kind of like process it. So I'm like, okay, let me just kind of think about some things over time. So I started to think back on a lot of dreams, because I've had a lot of dreams with our dog in it. And the context of the dream was not a good dream. Now, again, a lot of the times, like, sometimes the enemy will try to give you a demonic dream to try to get you out of agreement with something or someone that's for you. So sometimes it could be the enemy simply trying to get you out of position, right? Or to get you to, walk away from something or someone that God really has for you. In other instances, it could be the Lord allowing you to see what's really going on. So you really have to be discerning when it comes to dreams. But I've had, like, since we've had him, I've had a lot of dreams. And again, in more cases than not, the context isn't good, but I just didn't understand why. So I started thinking about the dreams, right? Then I started just kind of thinking of some different mannerisms of my puppy in and of itself, right? And so I don't want to go into details because I'm not trying to freak people out and spook them out, make you think that if you got pets and animals and things like that, that they're all demonic or demon possessed or something, because that's not the case. However, the point of the story is this. When I got our puppy, I wasn't even looking for a dog. Now, me and my children were having conversations about a dog. This is why you got to be very, very careful when opportunities just seem to come up, right? Just like if you're having a conversation about something and your phone is near you, you don't even have to be on your phone. But if it's near you, then you might pick up your phone and you might get on Google or you might get on social media, and all of a sudden the advertisement or ad for that very thing is on the phone. And what we can do when we over spiritualize things or under spiritualize things, we can either say, oh, that must be God, because I was just talking about that, look, and this must be a sign, right? And so we got to be careful when we are having kind of open conversations, whether it's with your friends or your family, because the enemy is roaring as a lion, seeking whom he may devour. He's not omniscient and omnipotent like God is. He's not omnipresent. He's not everywhere at once. So he's using monitoring spirits and familiar spirits and demonic, powers and, witches and warlocks and wizards and sorcerers and all of these different things that he has to utilize to try to keep tabs on us. And so sometimes we may be having these conversations and we just assume because maybe no one's in the room, right? Or no one else was around. But we got to remember that spirits a lot of time are unseen if we're not able to discern the spirit. And so the enemy will pick up on certain things, and then all of a sudden he'll present that thing to you. And you will just think, oh my gosh, this must be God. Nobody knew. No one else was in the room. But sometimes it's the enemy playing on your weakness because he's some kind of way intercepted that information. So at the time when we got our puppy, we were not actively looking for a dog. We were not actively preparing for a dog. To be honest, the home that we lived in, the landlord and I signed the lease up front saying no pets. Now, we didn't have a pet when we first moved in, but it was a no pet policy. So we, like, us talking about a dog was just kind of having the conversation because our first dog got stolen, and it just took me a very long time to even get comfortable with the idea of wanting another dog, because it really hurt me so bad to have our first dog stolen. We had her for 7.5 years, since she was 8 weeks, and so it was very traumatic for me. So the conversation began with me being okay with the thought of, okay, yeah, we can get another dog, but we were not actively looking. And so it was just a random day that I was trying to go to my son's grandparents' house to show my son the shoes that I had got him or something, and he wasn't there. But 2 doors down, they were having a yard sale, and as we were riding down the street, I looked over, and there was this little tiny cute adorable puppy in the cage in the front of all this other stuff, and this sign that said yard sale. So immediately I'm like, I know the dog ain't for sale. Can't be, right? Who just has a puppy, a, a purebred, like expensive puppy type like dog in a yard sale? Like he was tiny, like again, he was 9 weeks. So it's like, that's surely not. Maybe they just have him out there trying to keep him, keep an eye on him because they're out there doing their yard sale. But as I'm talking to my son, like, I know the dog isn't on for sale too. The owner came out of nowhere. I don't even know where he came from, and he was like, oh no, he is. Now immediately, I didn't pray, I didn't seek God. And so that's the biggest moral of the story. If you don't get nothing else out of what I'm saying today, please, when the Bible tells us to acknowledge God in all our ways, when the Bible says seek ye the kingdom first and all his righteousness, it is because there are things that God knows, there are things that God see, that's ahead or that's behind something, and that we don't. And if we acknowledge God first, then we will not get into some of these pitfalls. And because I have a track record, again, telling on myself, of being impulsive or an emotional decision maker, right? Because that's another thing. There may be certain, propensities or certain patterns and cycles that you're prone to based on your bloodline, right? Because it may be a pattern that the demonic kingdom, sow seeds into your bloodline. Now you can look at, you can trace back in your generations and see that so many people make unwise decisions, right? Or make emotional decisions. And normally what happens when you make emotional decisions, it creates setback, because then it starts off looking like it works, right? It starts off looking like it was a great decision, like everything, it's well. But eventually it begins to turn into something destructive, and it begins to turn into something totally opposite of what it is you were trying to do. And then now you're in this thing, and things start, happening, and it's breaking, falling apart, and all of this stuff. And next thing you know, you can find yourself going down a spiral really quickly. And now you're going to have to try to get out of this hole that you find yourself in, because you made this decision, and you made it based on your emotions. You made it based and like hasty, right? So in that moment, because he then said that the dog was available, I didn't stop and consider, right? I didn't say stop and think on this. Like I didn't stop and begin to pray or consult God, or I didn't say, because here's the thing with me, I don't know about y'all. Sometimes we feel like we got to rush something because we think that we going to miss something, or we going to miss out for it. Because for me, sometimes it's like, maybe if I don't do it right now, maybe the opportunity will no longer be there, right? So it was the thing about, if I didn't make the decision in the moment, the dog will probably be gone. But we have to know the God that we serve, right? There are times when, after you've already been in prayer, after you've already been sitting with the Lord, after you've already had confirmation and conversation with God, and he's been already giving you steps and strategies or whatever, and revelation, then an opportunity come up, and now you can make a quick decision because you've already done the footwork. You've already been in the presence of God. You've already got the revelation. Lord has already showed you or told you. So now when the thing come up, you don't need to go and pray to God, right? So there are moments where that happens, but then there are other times where an opportunity comes up, And whether you've been praying for this particular opportunity, but maybe you still need to pray about the opportunity, right? And you have to be confident that if it is indeed God and it's for you, that it don't matter that it's going to be there, because God not going to let you lose nothing because you are seeking him first, because the Bible tell us to do that. But because sometimes we're so conditioned and so used, because we have habitually, processed and thought and made decisions in a certain way, that we just don't think to do that, right? And we think that somewhere that God is not able to preserve that opportunity, even if the person is saying, oh, well, this only gonna be for the next 5 minutes, or if you don't make the decision, or if you don't get it now, then it ain't gonna be here. You have to trust that if that's the case, then it wasn't for you, right? But going back, like, I didn't seek God first. And when I got into the conversation with the man, it's interesting because on the outer appearance, this guy, he looked like a thug, and I'm not being funny. Like, he had all these gold teeth in his mouth, he had these gold rings, these gold chains, he has these tattoos, he was talking, but then some kind of way we got on the subject of God, and we got talking about the Bible and this and this and that, and it's not to say, because I understand that some people that was their prior life, right? And so now they could gotten saved and they still just got the gold teeth, or they still just got tattoos. I have tattoos. So that's not necessarily a big deal to me, right? But what we do have to be aware of is that the enemy is crafty and he's wise. And so he knows the things to get you to drop your guard. And because he knows that I am a woman of God, and he knows that if 9 times out of 10, if a person is starting to talk to me and they are able to engage on a certain depth and certain level spiritually with me, that will a lot of times cause me to become comfortable, because I'll begin to believe that person is a man or woman of God, and then that will cause me to think, okay, well, maybe this is the thing, right? And I hope I'm making sense, and I hope y'all catching what I'm saying. And so he began to talk to me about all these spiritual things, and got to tell me about his situation and all of this stuff. So it just began to appear to be like God. But even as I'm standing out talking to the man, other people are pulling up, like asking about the puppy, and he in front of me. He is telling them, yeah, he's for sale. But I'm already in the process of making the deal with the man. But even in the midst of me talking to him right there in front of him, and that should have been a red flag to me right there, he's telling another person who pulls up, like, yeah, he for sale. And the person asked for how much, he tell him for how much. And then the person like, okay, I'm about to go get the money. He like, okay. So then I say something to the man like, well, why would you do that? I'm standing right here and I'm telling you that I got the money and I just need to go to the bank and get it. He was like, do you know how many people have rolled past here and said they gonna go get the money and come right back and never do? He was like, he was like, that person probably ain't gonna come back, or you might make it back before them. He was like, if you go get the money and you come back and the dog is still here, he yours. So I'm like, bet. So after I already made a decision in my mind that I'm about to go get the money to get this dog, then I say, then I'm praying. But then I had to remember, now I live in somebody else's property, and I signed a lease saying no pets. So now I gotta call my landlord, and I'm like, because if she said no, I was just gonna not get the dog, right? So when I call her and I let her know we found this little puppy, little Shih Tzu, it's a small breed dog, we want to get him, but we want to make sure it's okay with her. And she said, sure. She's like, yeah, get the dog. You can get the dog. And so I'm like, sweet. So now I'm racing to get the money. And here's the thing. God does everything in decency and in order. And God is not a God who you really got to rush for, right? Again, unless there's a sense of urgency. So now I'm rushing because I don't know what bank the other person went to. They had a head start because they left before I did. So now I'm trying to get back. But I end up telling my son, I was like, if we get back and the dog is not there, that meant it wasn't for us. So get back, we pull up, we don't see the dog. The cage ain't out there in the front, nothing. So I'm like, oh dang, the other person must have came and got the dog. So I'm about to pull off, and then the man pops up again from nowhere. I don't even remember where the man came from. And he was like, no, he's still here. I put him up on the porch behind, because it was kind of like this this wood that you couldn't see beyond the porch. You couldn't see what was on the other side of the porch, and he had put the dog up there to conceal the dog so nobody else would come by and see the dog to get the dog. So I was able to get the dog. So that's how we got the dog. So again, it was not me really seeking God. It was not me really actively looking for a dog. It wasn't me, really making a well thought out, well informed decision. It was me just in the spur of the moment, just in the heat of the moment, just full of emotion, full of excitement, just making a hasty decision. So we get him. He's amazing. He's the cutest thing in the world. Like, he just, was a joy. So again, what is the problem, right? Here's the thing. What the enemy will and can do. Demonic forces or disembodied spirits, they cannot legally just really be in the earth realm without the highest form of occupation they want to have is a body, right? They want a human being, because they know that God gave dominion and authority to mankind in the earth realm. He said, have dominion, subdue the earth, right? So because we have dominion, that's why spirits like to possess a body. But if they can't possess a body, they'll settle for either an inanimate object. This is why you can have people who have certain shrines, or they have certain statues, or they have certain statues of certain animals or certain particular things. Or when you think of people who believe in crystals, it is nothing more than there's a spirit attached to that thing that is utilizing that inanimate object as a house, right? But then you have spirits that will also inhabit an animal. Why? Because an animal is, again, it is a shell. It is something that the spirit is able to occupy and work through. All the spirit wants to do is work through and promote its evil agenda. So if it has to do that through an animal, this is why when you are dreaming often about animals, especially particular animals, and again, certain animals do mean certain things, but they also can have other meanings. But like if you're always having dreams of certain kind of birds, certain kind of dogs, cats, different things, again, it depends on the context. They can be other things, but a lot of times those things are the spirit realm is trying to let you know this is a monitoring spirit. So what the enemy will do is he will send or already have a spirit inside of an animal, and you unknowingly, because you're not prayerful, you're not seeking God, because you don't think, I think for me, you think that certain decisions are just so simple that you don't need to consult God. But it's a reason why the Bible says acknowledge him in all your ways. Because what the enemy does is to unsuspecting people, even like people who allow stray animals. Like all of a sudden, a stray kitten always is coming to your door, or a stray puppy, or some kind of animal, or your kid come in the house and they have this this animal they found. You want to be careful with that, because a lot of times the enemy has put certain things in place to be on an assignment through these things. And so being prayerful and even praying and pleading the blood of Jesus over your animals and anointing your animals, like of course if it's a fish you can't anoint it, but praying over whatever, because the enemy will use anything he can. So I just kind of started having this revelation again just this week. And then today I'm watching a teaching. This guy is doing a teaching on deliverance and curses, and he begins to tell two stories. He was like telling a story of how a woman who came to him for deliverance, she was telling him that every time she conceived and got pregnant and she would be taking a bath, she would see a lizard. And obviously where she lived, that lizards were not uncommon, so she never thought nothing about it. But shortly after she would see the lizard, she would miscarry. And this must have happened a couple of times before she either went to seek deliverance to get help and the revelation was revealed to her, or maybe she began to pray. And so some kind of way the revelation was revealed to her, and indeed she realized that particular lizard was a monitoring spirit. So the next time she saw the lizard, she got up and she traced it and she killed it, and that pregnancy she was able to keep, and she was able to give birth to that child. So he told that story today. Then he told another story about a guy who he led to Christ, or led to be filled with the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues, and the guy was speaking in his heavenly language at home all the time, and then after he started doing that, then all of a sudden a mouse came and just laid down at his feet. It didn't die, but it was like super weak to like where it wasn't like couldn't get up and run away. Rodents normally, when they see humans, they're kind of running in the opposite direction. And so this animal, just laid at his feet, and he didn't understand why it came, and he took and got rid of it and just, got it out of his house. And again, he found out that was a monitoring spirit. So what the enemy does is, and even witches and warlocks and sorcerers, what they can do is they can, depending on what rank and what level of witch or warlock that they are, they can take the form of or astral project into animals. This is why you have to be very careful, especially when it comes to like different, like things like cats. We know, like in movies and in fairy tales, witches are often known with certain things. Like they're normally associated with black cats, they're normally associated with brooms, and they're normally associated with the moon. Well, those things have some truth and reality to them. And so even sometimes in these different Disney movies or different fairy tales and movies, we see that a witch may take the form of someone else, or a witch may take the form of an animal, to deceive or to get access to a place or a person, and different things like that. We have to understand that there is a reality to those things. Because normally we think this is just entertainment, we don't realize that a lot of times the kingdom of darkness show us right in up front in our face what they do. We don't believe it because we just don't think that kind of stuff exists, but it does. So this is why when you going to get a pet, you going to get an animal, you moving into a new house, because again, houses can be inhabited by spirits. This is why people say they're hunted, or you may get into a house and strange things is happening, furniture is moving, strange noises, you're seeing things. It's because some spirits have some legal right, or they've attached to that dwelling in some kind of way. And so it's so important to seek God. And so as I begin to seek God more and more, it's like certain things started sticking out to me about my puppy's mannerisms, and different things, and the dreams and things I've noticed that I've kind of tried to look over, because in your mind, when you love something, it's very hard to see the truth about it. Even a person, thinking back on my ex, right? Because I thought I loved him, or because I had some type of emotional attachment to him, and I had some romantic feelings for him, as much as his behavior, as much as the character, as much as the spiritual things were right in my face, they were happening, they were there, it is no doubt about it. But it was like there was something blinding me to it, because I had these romantic affections and feelings. Again, emotions. And so anytime our emotion is involved, it becomes even more difficult for us to receive the truth about something, because we love it. But I'm here to tell you that you're going to have to release it. Because the thing about it is, it's not because the animal or the thing or the place, right, in and of itself was evil. It's because what is now inhabiting or residing in it, right? And yes, you can say, well, can't you just pray for him? It depends, right? That's where you go to the Lord. Yes, you can pray over a house and pray over land and property where people have done all kind of things and created all kind of curses and strongholds to get it off. Yes, it depends on, again, what level it is of what all you can do. But can you come against that? Yes. Could you do the same thing with the animal? But sometimes God don't want you to. He simply wants you to leave, right? Yes, a person can go get deliverance, but that don't still mean that they're the person for you. Yes, you can, pray over the house and anoint it and, do all these things, but maybe that's not where God wants you to live. Yes, the animal probably can, I'm not an expert in this part. I don't know for sure, but maybe it's possible that there can be some level of deliverance done on an animal, but it's probably easier and quicker to just get rid of it than to try to spin your wheels trying to figure out how to deliver it. because you can get another animal. But it's like, what's more important? Do you want to continue to risk being in a place of stagnation or delay, or having all your everything derailed because you don't understand why it seemed like every time God speak to you or reveal something to you or give you a word or a promise, or somebody come confirm something to you, or they give you a word, and then you get excited about it and you looking forward to it. You may be, maybe you're talking to God about it and nothing and no one's around, but maybe your animal is there, right? You don't realize that it's the enemy using that animal, and that animal, that spirit in the animal is taking that information, taking it back to the kingdom of darkness. Now they're concocting a scheme to come to derail the very thing you're believing for, and then you wonder why it never come to pass. And so I'm saying that there are some things that God may be telling you, or may be about to tell you, that you're gonna have to release, and you might love it, right? Think about Abraham. God told him to give up his only begot, his only, excuse me, the son of the son of promise, the son that he had with his wife Sarah, the promised son. And now, yes, he didn't have to end up sacrificing it, but he surely had to sacrifice his nephew Lot, who, again, he loved Lot. Like, Lot was his brother's son, and his brother died, and he felt probably like he had a responsibility to Lot. He probably felt like he needed to be a father figure for Lot, but Lot also brought him comfort because he didn't have an heir. And so for him, he probably like, well, I can fill in the void for him as a father, but he's also filling a void for me as a son because I don't have a son. And so, but it came a point in time where God said, you got to separate from Lot, right? So he didn't have to kill Lot. He didn't have to destroy Lot. But God said, in order for me to do what I need to do in your life, you have to give that up. You have to release it. And once he released Lot, then God came and reconfirmed and elaborated more on the promise. And he continued to prosper and increase. And, he began to walk even closer with God and become a friend of God and see God do miraculous things in his life once he released the thing that was not ever supposed to come. There are sometimes we bring certain people or certain things in our life, and they were never supposed to be a part. And for a season, God may have allowed it, right? For a season, God allowed Lot to come along with Abraham. But if you look and track the journey of Abraham until him and Lot split, they went in a complete circle. Sometimes we're moving, and because we're moving, we don't think that we're not, headed in the right direction. Just because you're moving don't mean you're headed in the right direction. See, Abraham, they were moving, so they were going from place to place, but they made a complete circle and ended up back in the place that they started, and then they had to separate, and then he was able to go in the right direction. So sometimes you make friends with certain people, or you connect yourself with certain groups, or you connect yourself with certain ministries, or you bring in certain things into your life, right? You take certain opportunities, whatever the case may be, that was never meant to be a part. And so because God is sovereign and he's merciful, sometimes he just, for whatever reason, allows it. He see you attached to it. Maybe he was trying to give you signs in the beginning. Maybe he was giving me signs, because like I said, it was certain things that was kind of like interesting when we first got the puppy. But I was so in love because he was the cutest thing ever. We couldn't take him nowhere, and still to this day can't. He's adorable. He is so cute. We can't take him nowhere where people like, oh my gosh, can I pet him? He's so cute. Oh my gosh, look at his markings. He's got these unusual markings. I've never seen that before. Oh my gosh, because that's what the enemy do. The enemy is always going to package something in a way that we gonna receive it, because we gonna like it. It's gonna be appealing. It's going to be attractive to us, even with a person, right? And so, just because we gotta allow it for a season don't mean it was a part of his will. But in order for you to go into the next place of territory, the next land, the next season that he has for you, you got to release it. And so, is it gonna be easy? No. Like, again, the thought of me giving up my dog brings me to tears. Like, I cry real tears. Like, I'm full of emotion. Like, I feel hurt. I feel pain. But that don't mean that that's still not the thing that God is telling me to do. That just lets me know that I have some type of emotional attachment to this thing, to my baby, to my puppy, right? But that don't mean, and it's not because the puppy in and of himself is bad. It's because how the enemy is utilizing. Because again, I don't really know what that that previous owner that sold me him really was into. I don't really know if he was a man of God. I don't really know if he did put some kind of spell or put something on these puppies and sold them, because he don't tell me to after the fact that I already bought the dog. And see, I had to go back to the guy because I needed the paperwork that he had took the dog to the vet. And so when I rolled back on him, I didn't have no way to contact him or call him, so I had to go just pop up back at his house. And he was there. And so I was like, hey, I need the paperwork because the vet is asking for it or whatever. So he's like, okay. So, we chit chat. And then he tells me, yeah, really, he was calling the puppy Benny. Like, that was the name he gave the puppy. So he was like, a woman had put down a deposit on Benny. He was like, and when she came back, I ended up telling her that I sold him, and I ended up giving her her $100 back. But then she ended up buying one of the parents because he was selling the parents too. And for me, I'm thinking now, like, I wish he would have told me that in the beginning. Like, first of all, what kind of person is you? Like, because that's not godly. Like, if someone else already put down a deposit on the dog, why do you still got the dog in the front of the yard sale trying to still sell the dog when this woman then already put $100 down on it? The right thing to do was, you were supposed to take the dog, just like you called yourself putting it up for me until I came back. He was supposed to keep his agreement with this woman, and he was supposed to allow her whatever time frame for her to come back with the rest of the money and make good on his agreement, right? But because I didn't have this particular information ahead of time, he tells me after the fact that I done already gave him the money. I already had the dog in my possession for a couple days or whatever. But then he tried to make me feel like he did the right thing by giving her money back and then selling her one of the parents. But looking back at that, again, see, you can't pay attention to what a person say. It's what they do. And that's not moral, right? That's not good business. God ain't gonna tell you to do that. God not gonna tell you to just, make a deal with somebody, take their money, and go double deal and make a deal with somebody else for the same thing that you done already made a deal for. Like, God don't tell you to do that. That's greed, right? That's you trying to be manipulative. But again, I didn't have that information. But maybe if I would have just said, oh, this is a cute puppy, I would love to get him, but you know what, I would have to think about it. And if I come back after I think about it and he's gone, then it wasn't for me. If I would have did that, I would have never even been put in a place where now it's like I didn't got what I thought was a blessing, but really I took something from somebody else. And even that, right? We don't know what people do and are into. That woman, right? That person could have been so angry. She could have spoke a curse, right? She could have spoke a curse, like, on me, not knowing who I was, but on the person, because she's so hurt and mad about the dog. You know what I'm saying? So it's so many different things that can contribute to how the enemy can gain access. But here's the thing. When God begins to show you something, even if it's about something or someone you love, yes, it may be difficult to receive. It may be difficult to believe. All the things. It may hurt. It may be hard. But trust God and release it. Because your breakthrough is tied in you releasing it. Whether it's an opportunity, a career, a position, a relationship, an animal, a car, a house. It doesn't matter what it is. If God is asking you to give something up, if he's telling you to get rid of it, whether he's giving you a reason why or not, trust him and get rid of it, right? And don't doubt. And even if it's hard, tell God and ask him to help you to do it. He will. But trust me, the enemy, God knows more of what's happening and what's going on and what trickery and wiles of the enemy that he's using against us. And what God's agenda is, he wants to protect us. But sometimes we just have to partner with God in that, right? We can't keep asking God to protect us, but maybe there's some things that we have in our possession or we're holding on to that is giving the enemy a legal right. But we're constantly asking God to, to help us, but we don't want to give this thing up. Or maybe, we're asking God to deliver us, but we don't want to stop the sinning, or we don't want to stop going to the certain place, or we don't want to stop doing the thing. Like, we have to partner with God. And in this season, as he's setting captives free, there are going to be some things that can't go with you in your new season, in your new place. There are some things, there's some people, there's some mindsets, there's some habits, right? There's all kind of things, whatever God is speaking to you, that cannot go. And you got to release it. And in you releasing it, you're going to attain, right? You're going to attain what God has for you. You're going to be able to lay hold of what it is you've been believing God for if you release the thing he's telling you to release. I don't know what that is for you. You do. Take it to God. Maybe this is confirmation. Maybe you already know what God is telling you got to get rid of. Listen. Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, it may feel like it's going to break your heart. Yes, you might need God to help you do it. Yes, it may seem like it is just gonna be near impossible or so difficult, but trust God, right? And release it. And so I just want to leave you guys with that. I know this has been a little long. I didn't mean for it to be so long, but again, take it back to the Lord, allow him to elaborate, confirm, speak to you directly, and just know your past does not define you. It develops you, and you are worthy.